Hello and welcome to another Flashpoint Campaigns Red Storm gameplay video. As you recall, if you've been following, we've been playing the Hell on Wheels campaign, and tonight I'd like to do an introduction and prelude to the second scenario, Battle Tested. By introduction and prelude, I've been sitting here for a while playing with this, seeing how this inter scenario setup works. And there's a lot to be considered and a lot to decide before gameplay can begin. And I'd like to show you how this works and maybe even play with it a little bit. So I don't expect that there'll be a lot of gameplay, if any, in this. In fact, I'm intending to go through this, make some decisions as far as force levels and when I expect the battle to begin, and then save the first actual playthrough for the next video when I'll have had a chance to actually deploy the forces and get ready for the battle. That would be a very long, drawn-out thing with a lot of ums and ahs and hms and changes. I suspect it would be even more boring than sitting here listening to me talking about it. So let's go ahead and open the saved campaign. And there she is. Now, this is a little awkward. It opens up with this depot mode, refit, rebuild dialogue, and you're expected to make decisions about how many hours you're going to take to recover fallen out units and how many victory points you're going to give to rebuild fallen out units or replacements. I think it is. Yeah, for replacements. That's what it is. So 0 to 20 hours for refit, for fallen out recovered, and victory points for replacements received. It says it's 1600 hours, and if we don't give ourselves any time to refit, and we don't, well, it won't matter. If we don't give ourselves any time to refit, the game begins at 1600 right now on 22nd of July, according to the up here in the corner and the little audio emphasis there. So otherwise, you can spend up to 20 hours, which would be till midday, noon the following day, and refit approximately a lot of your units. Right now it's saying my current force is at 50% of its original runners. 35% of the starting total has fallen out and needs 20 hours to fully recover. So there you go. We could recover 35% of the starting total from, I believe, I guess the last scenario, if we give a full 20 hours to recover. That would start the game at noon the next day, and this is, I think, an 8-hour battle. So it would go from midday to well after dark. Or we could recover 2,700 and not recover, I should say. We should get reinforcements for 2,704 points, and actually I think 2,700. That's cheesy, but it says approximately 58 subunits would be received as replacements. So the decision you have to make here is how strong do you want to be and how early do you want to start? Do you want to start it right now at 4 o'clock in the afternoon and fight a night battle? Let's see, dusk at 21:23. Well, almost 5.5 hours before dusk, which gives you 2.5 hours of light or dark afterwards, give or take, after the sun goes down, after dusk. Or do you want to recover a significant number of your fallen out units from the previous scenario and begin some other time? So as an example here, it says 20 hours. Well, let's dial in 20 hours. We get 136 subunits back. And now it would say my starting time will be 1,200 hours, and I've lost 2,704 victory points for my cumulative victory point total. If you do that, you begin about noon the following day, and you would have until, well, in fact, you'd have an all-day battle. The battle lasts 8 hours. It'd go from noon to 2,000 hours. You'd have an all-daylight battle through midday and early evening before the sun goes down, and you'd have every unit available. I am assuming, it's a fair assumption, that the Soviet side is going to be doing the same thing based on your decisions. What's odd about this is you have to make the decision without actually having looked at the map. I mean, there's just no getting. I say that. I wonder what would happen if I click that close button right now. It would be nice to make that decision based on some knowledge of the terrain. And just out of curiosity, let's click on that. And no. So at that point it says, you know what, that was just like hitting the commit button. And so there you go. You've got a very depleted force, and this is the map. The scenario is to grab as many victory points. It looks like a meeting engagement. I didn't go through it, but we can go through the mission briefing. Basically, it's saying that the Soviets are in this corner. Let me zoom out a little more. Something looking like that. So I expect that what you will see is coming this way and this way. Now the victory points down here, 1,400, 1,700, yeah. A lot more victory points up here. 1,000, that's 2,000, 3,500, 4,800. That looks like it. And down here there are, well, 3,100. Still, the majority of the victory points are in this, would appear to be, if you want to call this area the center of the map. Unless I've missed a victory point hex, that's the way it looks. And you can see your setup basically is saying, look at these nice road columns that you can have coming all ready to go, including this one, which is kind of funny, kind of disjointed, or anywhere back up and down here. It's going to take a little bit of thinking and doing to make this final call at how to play this. So what I think we'll do is let's go back to the main menu. Let's load the campaign again. And there you go. And here we are back in the depot mode, refit, rebuild. So one way to think about it is we're going to take what we have now and fight whatever the Soviets have now before they have a chance to refit and rebuild. They took a pretty bad shellacking. We were down to 50% of our original force. Before the end of the last scenario, well before the end of the last scenario, they were below 30% or at 70% losses. I'm assuming, though, that they get the same opportunity to rebuild, maybe even to give up victory points to, I should say, taking time to refit and giving up victory points to rebuild. So I don't think we're going to be seeing 30% of the original force, or it could be, I don't know. Having never played this, I don't know, that we may be seeing the same force. It could be follow-on forces. What is apparent is that they don't own any victory points at the beginning, no matter when it begins. At least that's the way I read it. So we got what appears to be a meeting engagement, and we got to decide just how much in the way of guys we're going to try to refit and how many guys we're going to take as reinforcements. So if we were to take 12 hours out of 20 and go ahead and sacrifice all the victory points possible, we would get what appears to be about 130 subunits back. The battle would begin at 0400 and it would end 8 hours later at midday. If you took an additional hour, dawn's at 0502. If you wanted to have the battle begin right at dawn, you could gain an additional half dozen or so refitted units, and begin right at dawn and fight through early afternoon. And again, we talked about this before. If we went for 20 hours, we begin at noon and fight through the early evening, but before dawn, or excuse me, before sundown at 21:23, or dusk in any case. Well, I'm babbling. I've had a good long layoff from the game, having spent most of the last 10 days on the road. I've had a couple of days home to recover, and facing this right now, I'm at something of a loss exactly how to proceed. Part of me says, what's so wrong with beginning the battle at noon and fighting a day battle all day long, other than the presumption, and I think it's a fair assumption, I should say, that the Soviets will be just that much stronger, like we are that much stronger. I just don't know how it plays out. I don't know whether they will be proportionally stronger or whether they will be disproportionately stronger or weaker, depending on when we do this. So it's interesting. I think it's a little awkward. It would be nice if the game opened up with the map available to look around and make some decisions, and then you could enter this depot mode and choose what you're going to refit and what you're going to do in terms of replacements received. My first inclination is to start this battle around maybe 4 in the morning and have an hour of dark for a march forward toward the victory points, and arrive in the vicinity of whatever we decide, or I should say I decide. I keep using the Royal Imperial we. That's rather odd. But in any case, starting and having that first hour to move forward in the darkness and avoid any kind of nasty air attacks that might come on columns moving down the road, or maybe starting right at dusk and, or excuse me, I should say dawn. These D words are getting to me. Dusk, dawn, and dyslexia. I'm inclined to say, you know what, let's give ourselves, and it's just have no idea how to base this except a gut. Let's give ourselves 12 hours to refit. That'll get us back 82 units. Let's give up all the victory points we can to get another 8 units, and plan on a pre-dawn march to initial positions, and then hopefully the fight will be on once we get where we'd like to go. I suspect that's optimistic, and that what will actually happen is a march forward, a meeting engagement, and one hell of a brawl. But that's what we're here for, right? Is to blow things up, break things, and for you guys to point your fingers and giggle at me at my inability to plan properly and execute effectively. So at this point, we will check one more thing. Non-core reinforcements attached for this scenario. There's the good old 544th Mechanized Infantry Company with one, count them, one Humvee. That's the remains of that Mechanized Infantry Company, I believe, from the previous scenario. Then we go ahead, and by the way, this tells us the current forces. Before we do this, 9 Bradleys, 9 Cavalry Scouts, 40, 45, 50, 55 Abrams, 21 Mech Rifle, 28 M2 Bradleys, 6 heavy machine guns, 3 M113s, 2 Stingers, 8 Vulcans, 7 Chaparrals, 1 M110. Artillery took it in their pants, the counter battery last time. 4 M109s out of a start of 8, if I recall correctly. 6 M106s, 12 headquarters, 13 M577s, and 7 M1026s, which are, I'm sure, in and about those headquarter units. Not a lot left. Mostly what you're seeing there are the that mechanized, or excuse me, that armor battalion that came on at the end and still took quite a pounding due to my head scratching and rather clumsy attack. So we hit the commit button, and if you look down here, you'll see it doing all its figuring. 20 units have been reactivated. 82 fallen out subunits have returned to duty, and 58 replacement subunits have been replaced or have been received at a cost of 12 hours and 2,704 victory points. Now we should go to the scenario description. Date 22 July 1989. Time D2 plus 16 hours. That's not true. That was the time we made the decision on how long to take to do all this other stuff. Location near Sittensen, West Germany. 3rd Brigade of the 2nd Armored Division has not held its initial positions east of Hamburg. We are now being called upon to do a retrograde action to take up blocking positions further to the west. The American forces are operating without the air superiority they are always trained and taught to expect. In fact, there was a distinct lack of almost any aircraft of any type on this day. The first 2 days there was extreme air activity, but now there was almost an eerie silence on the battlefield under clear blue skies. 66th Armored Regiment is the oldest in the U.S. Army. They have been battle tested from their very inception. For the second time today, they will be battle tested again. So, mission briefing. Hell on Wheels mission briefing for CA2 battle tested. GHQ General, your mission is to use Hell on Wheels to take more than your share of victory points in this quick game. More than your share? I didn't know I had a share. Okay. H hour is 0400 hour. You will have 8 hours to complete your mission. Dawn at 0502. Dusk at 2123. You do not have any off-map supporting assets. Your assigned starting area is bounded by, the blue places that you set up. Victory conditions: must secure more than your initial share of victory points to win. Decisive victory requires 82, and I think they meant percent. 82% of the total victory points won. Tactical 72%. Marginal victory requires 61. Hell on Wheels secured victory points location, none. So we're holding none. There's 1,000, 2,000, 3,300, 4,800, 6,200, 72, 7,900 victory points out there. To get this, we got to have 82% of that is a bunch. I'm do it in my head, but anyway, we're coming up on 20 minutes of me just jabbering. Intel reports indicate that local enemy forces may contain 10 to 20 Riki, 10 to 20 helicopter, 30 to 40 tank, 30 to 40 APC, 30 to 40 infantry, 1 to 10 self-propelled AT, 20 to 30 headquarters, 10 to 20 air defense, 30 to 40 oh my goodness, 30 to 40 self-propelled RD subunits. We will be using the M110s for counter battery in this scenario. They expect to be in an area bounded by columns 28 to 46 inclusive and rows 13 to 30 inclusive. And at this point it says transmission ends, end of mission briefing. And at right on 20 minutes, I'm going to end this and spend my time doing the drudge work of getting things set up and setting up the plan. And the next scenario, or the next video, we'll play as many command cycles as we can within the more or less 30 minutes that I like to allocate for these sorts of things. So thanks for jumping in, thanks for listening, thanks for hanging in as long as you have, if you're in here after all the other ones from the previous campaign scenario. This ought to be a lot of fun, and I do appreciate you. In the meantime, as the mission briefing says, transmission ends.